Whether your ROI is dollar signs or hot meals across the globe, JDA is your full-service marketing partner to help you achieve your long-term goals. Learn more at jdaworldwide.com. Empowering the extraordinary.
What death does is it puts things in perspective. A motto of my family is tomorrow's not promised. So therefore, if tomorrow's not promised, how do you make the most of today and really love people knowing that you may never see them again?
Hi, I'm Dave Neff, host of Talent Scout. On this show, we shine a light on Indiana's next generation of leaders who are making a difference in business, community, and civic life. These are real conversations about purpose, mentorship, and building a future that matters. Join me as we invest in leadership that lasts. Welcome back to another episode of Talent Scout. My name is Dave Neff, and I am thrilled today to have my good friend, the lead pastor of North City Church, Jeff Brown. Jeff, welcome to the show.
What's up, man? Appreciate you having me, bro.
Yeah, man. Well, I'm excited. You know, we've really gotten to know each other, I think, pretty well over the last 4 or 5 years. Now our kids actually attend the same school, and I believe you're the first pastor I've had on the show. So breaking barriers, which is awesome, but well-deserving, just as I've observed how you've moved through the city, through the community, beyond just the four walls of the church that you pastor and lead. And so really excited for the conversation we're going to have today.
Thanks, bro. Appreciate you having me, man. Seriously.
All right. Well, let's start by going back to begin. I know you're from here, but you had a pretty interesting childhood growing up, man. Just a lot of twists and turns. And so I'd love for you to just enlighten our audience, share what it was like growing up in Indianapolis, and what family was like for you.
Yeah, man. So it's funny. I always have to start out with telling people, because they meet me now as a pastor. I'm like, yo, I would have never thought I would have been a pastor. Yeah. This was not something that was like in the plans. Nobody of my family, friends would ever seen that. So I grew up on the east side of town, and then later on we moved out to Pike Township. And man, my family, loving family. We got a huge family, especially on my pop's side. On my dad's side, it's massive. And my mom's side, super close knit. And man, it wasn't until I was around 16 years old when I probably seen that big shift that led me to where I'm at today. But prior to that, man, and just a inner city kid. Like, I love community. I'm still a diehard Indianapolis person. Yeah. Probably because I did a lot of fun stuff, but also some stuff that ain't too much to brag about, man. Yeah. And man,
so are you Naptown, Circle City, Speed City? Where you fall on this right now?
Let me just say this. Like, it's always gonna be Nap. Let's not get it twisted. It will always be Nap. But you got other cities that got double names. So Windy City, Chi-Town. I think we can be Naptown.
I like
Circle
that.
City, Speed City. Yeah.
Kind of a house of brands a little bit.
Yeah, of course. But it's gonna be Nap always, for sure. But yeah, man, so like my upbringing was a little different than the typical pastor. Man, a lot of my close friends, dudes that I grew up with, and we were in the streets and just did a lot of stuff that now it's the negative statistics that we always just talk about. But I think the huge part of that now is I see that as the opportunity, because man, it took people to invest in me and to see more than just the negative things. They seen that I was created in the image of God and that I had potential, and somebody just needed to believe in me. Man, it was crazy. Even in high school, I remember there were a couple administrators that kind of challenged me and seen more in me than I seen myself. Like one of my deans at the time who had to expel me, she told me, she said, Jeff, I have to expel you, but I want you to know that I believe in you. And it's crazy. She actually told my mom, she said, I want you to sign him out of school because I technically have to expel him. But if you sign him out, that'll give him a chance to actually redeem the rest of this year. And she had no idea that the investment that she made in me then was the very thing that actually saved me to end up graduating high school, because I did end up becoming a Christian and I changed my whole philosophy about school and went on to graduate. But it was just that, man, like people that invested and seen more into me. And then fast forward a couple years after knowing who God was, man, I just had a different vision. I seen all the stuff that I did, and I was like, yo, why did so many people look down on my community? Why did so many people look down on people like me instead of seeing that, man, these kids just need help. They need somebody to invest in them and see more in them than they see in themselves. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that's what I need to do. And that kind of just set me off on a trajectory, man, to just see people as more than what the negative things that the media says sometimes.
So let's dig in on that a little bit. So you said grew up on the east side, ended up moving to Pike. I believe, knowing a little bit of your story, you started high school at North Central.
Yep.
Is that right? So you did a couple years there before you got the boot?
Yeah, and then went to Pike.
Okay, and then finished up at Pike, what, your junior, senior year?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Talk to us about just those two schools. Obviously, lots of great alum have come out of North Central and Pike. But just the experiences and I know different person today, maybe then, but you went through a pretty big transformation in high school. It sounds like when you found faith and really started walking with the Lord. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, man. So I think one of the cool things with North Central and Pike, I mean, they're technically schools that are really diverse because you got a vast array of like socioeconomic diversity and ethnic diversity in the schools. You got like these pockets of poverty in these neighborhoods that technically go to the school, but you also got some wealth as well. And man, it was really cool because sports is huge. So you get to, I actually sat in like a study hall with Eric Gordon, which was dope.
Oh, yeah. Gordon, 07, right?
Yeah.
North Central.
Yep. So then I transitioned over to Pike. And man, I think the thing that I loved about Pike though is Pike, you know, North Central did too, but my experience at Pike was so transformative because the people that worked at the schools took a lot more time than just what their job was. So I remember the guy who worked at the front desk. Man, this dude, he got a job to do, but he's seen his job as being more than just what he got paid for. And the reason I say that is because there was things in my life as I was trying to transition out of the streets and some of the things that I was doing where this dude would like speak to me like, nah, Jeff, I'm telling you, like there's more than this.
Yeah.
And you don't got to go down that road. I see this over here. I hear what people say, don't do it. Like, and I would, man, get out of class and just hang out in his office for sometimes 30 minutes to an hour and just soak up the wisdom. And you've seen that from a lot of people at Pike, which I appreciate it. So even now, as I'm a church, as a pastor at a church, our church is in Pike Township, which has been dope too.
That's right. That's really cool. I always like to ask my guests, you mentioned some things high level, but as you reflect back on that 0 to 18 time frame of life, what was a shaping force or two that really made you who you are today? And I know you went through some pretty difficult experiences as well.
Yeah, man. So I think, and this is probably one of the main things that help shape how I see life right now, is death. Like I experienced a whole lot of death from, man, my brother, my oldest brother was killed in a car accident. My best friend, who was like my brother, was murdered. And I had a lot of close friends and cousins that were either killed and murdered. And it meant what death does is it puts things in perspective. So a motto of my family is like, tomorrow's not promised. So therefore, if tomorrow's not promised, how do you make the most of today and really love people knowing that you may never see them again? And that shaped everything I do now. Like, yeah, I'm technically in my mid-30s now, but I'm like, yo, like the best of us may make it to 100. How do I make the most of these years? And that's really been my philosophy when I engage with people, is to say, yo, how do we make the most moment of a time that we do have? But then also challenge people to think more future and eternal, more than just getting captured of what we can do in the minute time that we have on this earth.
Yeah, the legendary basketball coach John Wooden says, make every day your masterpiece. He has these 7 rules of life. So that's a great one right there.
Yeah.
So wow. So experienced a lot of death pretty close to home. Can certainly see how that makes you far more grateful for each day that you are given. Talk to us about, so you graduate from Pike. When that happened, like what was young Jeff Brown thinking he was going to do with his life?
Yeah. Great questions. So one, I didn't think I was going to graduate. I don't think nobody did. So when I finally realized that, oh, snap, I can actually graduate high school, that was big for me. Like, I mean, that was the accomplishment of accomplishments for me at the time. But then, you know, I wanted more. I wanted to do more. And I was like, man, what can I do next? How do I take my life serious and make the most of the time that I have? So I'm like, let me go to college. So I went to Ivy Tech, which Ivy Tech was dope, man. Just going there, local school, obviously, that tries to help out and support the community. And I ended up going there. And it was funny, my psychology professor was the one that kind of transitioned me out of Ivy Tech, because I was explaining to her. She was like, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I think I want to maybe just talk to people about God. So maybe I should get a degree in like psychology. And she was like, Jeff, that's not really what psychology is. And I'm like, oh, okay. She said, that's more like a biblical counseling type degree. And she said, funny enough, I'm a biblical counselor on the side, which is kind of crazy too, that God weaves all these little stories together. And she was the one that recommended me. She said, maybe you should consider Bible college. I think it'd be really good for you. So I went to a local Bible college, Crossroads Bible College now, College of Biblical Studies it's called. And man, I did my bachelor's there, and yeah, like it's always been about people. So even as I think about ministry, I don't have a traditional understanding or philosophy of ministry because that's not where I was raised. I see ministry as an opportunity just to connect with people. So for me, it was like, all right, if this will help me to talk to people, the more I know the Bible, and let's do it. And it was kind of cool, man, because then I seen that shape more and more as the next couple years transition with church and even going on to get my master's too.
So you go to Crossroads Bible College. At that time, you're still just thinking like psychology or biblical counseling. When does the light switch go on that, hey, maybe I want to become a pastor?
Yeah, I fought that hard.
Yeah.
So here's my thing. Like, shout out to all the pastors. Love y'all. Appreciate all y'all do. I didn't grow up in the church. So because I didn't grow up in the church, I really struggled with a lot of church hurt. Because when you think about the church, most churches, their emphasis is to get people in there and to grow their congregation that they got. But a lot of times, most churches will tell you it's harder for them to reach the community or reach the lost. And I always grew up as the lost. And not only was I the lost, like I was the ones that people would warn their kids not to be around. Because if you see me, all you seeing is the sagging pants, gold teeth, and stuff like that. And you're going to automatically say, hey, don't go around them. So when I went to ministry school, I'm like, bro, I want to be that type of pastor. They just inside of the four walls, comfortable, doing what they want to do, but they're not really reaching people like that. And I remember getting challenged. Somebody was like, well, Jeff, if you feel like that there's gaps in what pastoral ministry is or what the pastors are doing, why are you not being a part of the change instead of just complaining on the sidelines? And I was like, okay, I'll take that. I'll take that chin check. And it was humbling too, because the reality is, man, a lot of churches I know are trying to do as best as they can. And this is probably why God saved certain people out of certain contexts, because they have that emphasis. And man, I remember another professor had challenged me. He said, Jeff, here's the reality. I mean, you're an amazing teacher of the Bible. I think you're really gifted in that. I think you love people and you care about people and you care for community. That's what a pastor is. A pastor is not just somebody who gets up and talks up front. It's way more than that. I mean, you should consider going to pastoral ministry. And between him and a couple other mentors and big homies of mine, I was like, all right, let's do it. Let me put my boots to the ground, man.
That was towards the end of the Crossroads
that was
time?
In the Crossroads, which led me to end up going to seminary because I wanted some more formal theological training, and then got my master's at seminary. But then also, I had started just serving at a couple churches. So I helped with a church plant for a couple years in Brookside, and then also ended up going on staff at a church on the north side of Indianapolis.
So after your undergrad, you end up going to seminary, I believe in Louisville, right? Spend a few years in Louisville getting a master's of divinity, right? And then after you achieve that, what kind of was the next step in terms of your career as you're going on this path to eventually become a lead pastor?
Yeah, man. So while I'm in seminary was really a really dope experience. One, because I think most people go to seminary and they just get the knowledge. My experience was a little different. I got to do, the way my master's degree was set up, it was way more hands-on than just the theological education. So I got to be a part of a phenomenal church in Louisville, Sojourn Church. And they're probably one of the most diverse churches there. They engage the community like next to none, man. And they just have a heart for people. And I got to not only learn theologically, but see that lived out through the lead pastor there, a guy named Jamal Smith. And, bro, it was amazing, man, because now I had this vision. So backing up a little bit, when I was in Indy, before I actually went over to seminary, that was another thing that kind of bothered me. It was like, yo, why are there still so many churches that are monocultural? Like, why is there not as many churches that look like the Bible says that we're all supposed to be one, from different backgrounds, different socioeconomic status and cultures? And I was like, yo, MLK said this in the 60s, that Sunday at 11 o'clock is the most segregated hour of the week. And you fast forward in 2020 something, and this is still predominantly true today in America. And I struggle with that. But I also seen the correlation too between the same reason why people struggle to reach people like me in some of the harder to reach places is the same reason we struggle with being unified across different cultures. And it's comfort. Like, it's the American comfort. Like, and it's no shade. Hey, we got a lot of blessings here in America. But sometimes our very comfort is the very things that keep us from being prophetic and really doing the hard things. So when I was in Louisville and I seen this church that was really diverse, I'm like, this is possible. It's not like it's impossible, but it's actually very doable if we put the right people in the right places that are bridge builders, and we encourage people to say, yo, get a little bit uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So that kind of led me outside of Louisville to come back to Indy and have a heart and see a church like that too.
Wow. Yeah, you are somebody I see as a bridge builder in the city. You're able to sit between left and right politically, as well as, the racial and economic spectrums. What is it you think? I mean, I think that's a gift of yours, but what animates you to lead in that way?
Yeah. I'll say this. The only way I can probably explain it is I just love people.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is why me and you connected. Like, for your audience, this is why me and Dave actually connected. Like, Dave, you love people. Like, I think if you study the Enneagram, I think we both 3s on the Enneagram, something like that. And a lot of times, man, when you get people that just love people and appreciate people's stories, that can send you a lot of places. Mm-hmm. And that's what I learned really, really quick, because, man, I knew just how dynamic my story was. If you only see me and created a narrative without hearing my story, you would write me off, or you would be hesitant, or you would just think the typical story. And it's not that. And I'm like, everybody has that. Regardless of where you're from, what your background is, you have a story. And I think the more and more I got to experience and talk to different people from different places, I would just be infatuated with people's story. So then, fast forward, I become a pastor at this predominantly white mega church on the north side of Indianapolis, and I've never been exposed to majority culture in my life. Somebody invited me there, and I was reluctantly going, like, all right, let me go. Went in there, I didn't understand the music they were singing. Like, it's funny, somebody who's never heard rap music, they'll say, like, how do you understand what they're saying? That's how I felt with CCM music. I did not hear it. But when the pastor preached, I'm like, oh, okay, man, he's preaching the word. Cool, bet. And I just started talking to people and engaging and having conversations. And then you find out, yes, there are these huge differences that we have. But at the same time, there's a thread in all of our stories that connect us as humanity. So we don't have to dumb down or colorblind our differences or act like they don't exist. Nah, we can actually celebrate those differences as we understand one another, which is really about how God is. Like, God is not like any of us, but we see the beauty of who God is with the diversity of the people that he's created. And that's just for me, for engaging with people. If you on the left, on the right, rich, poor, whatever, I can write you off based off of what I assume, based off what the media says, based off my own experience with somebody like you. But how am I doing that knowing that I may rob you for who you actually are? Sometimes that curiosity says, you know what, I may have some bias stepping into this conversation, but let me hear you out. And it may change. And I've only been surprised for the most part. Even with people that's like, yo, sometimes I was right in some of my assumptions, but it took the actually engaging with them to find out. But a lot of times I'm like, dang, like, there's a lot more similarities and things that we can connect on and build with versus me just writing you off before we have a conversation and talk.
Yeah, man, that's beautiful. And I know that to be true. You definitely love people well, and I've seen that over the last 4 or 5 years. That we've been together and been able to be involved in different initiatives and build together. So that's a great word. I want to talk a little bit about, you go to this after seminary, you join the staff of this large predominantly white Northside church, right? Talk to us about the roles that you had during your time there. How long did you end up serving at that church?
Yeah. So I was on staff at College Park Church for 5 years. And my role, I was assistant pastor there. So part of that would be men's ministry, preaching and teaching, local outreach, and even actually working on some of the things that I've talked about with diversity. Because specifically where the church is on 96 in Township Line Road, which is technically Indianapolis, Pike Township. I mean, it's a huge, diverse area in that 5-mile radius. And when they asked me to come on staff, a lot of people knew my heart and passion. I was like, yo, like, let's actually help this church engage the community around them. So I did a lot of that, man, a lot of preaching, and just engaging a lot of initiatives that would help people serve in the city and in the community. But I would say one of the unique things that I appreciated being at College Park too was you got to see the difference between someone who grows up in church and maybe someone who doesn't, which a lot of times we talk about all the other diversities. I mean, there's a real big difference between somebody who speaks all the Christianese language versus somebody that doesn't. And while I was pastoring there, man, I got a front row seat of learning how do you shepherd people who come from different church backgrounds, different spiritual backgrounds, and help them to be able to have a unifying factor of the gospel, which I would believe, in a way that they can actually communicate. So that was a lot of that as well, man, just helping people to be able to come in and grow in their faith, but then also not let them get so comfortable in a Christian bubble that they're like, all right, this is where it ends. Listen, now, let's go back out. Let's reach.
Thanks for joining us here on Talent Scout. We're going to take a quick break to hear from our sponsor, so stay tuned. Whether your ROI is dollar signs or hot meals across the globe, JDA is the agency built for you. Purpose-driven brands trust JDA for branding, creative campaigns, press releases, web development, digital strategy, and paid media solutions. From fundraising initiatives to driving revenue growth, the right partner puts your organization in front of the right people at the right time. Learn more at jdaworldwide.com. Empowering the extraordinary.
Let's reach.
Even though I don't attend that church, I remember hearing about you, just having friends that went to College Park, and hearing about just, when you would preach as a young guy, and just felt like started seeing your name and pictures and stuff. Like that's when we first crossed paths. But from there, I think it's been a little over 3 years now. You had the opportunity not to go plant a church, but take over a church that had been planted in the last, let's say, 10 years, but had been struggling a little bit. So talk to us about that opportunity, how it came about, what felt, compelled you and your wife, Sarah, to say, and your family to say, let's leave sort of the comfort of this, pretty stable, large, mega church with a lot of resources to go take on something that is going to feel like a startup, right? Just because there wasn't a whole lot of maybe momentum when you stepped in. So that was a little over 3 years ago now, what's now called North City Church. But just walk us through that experience and what kind of led you to make that leap.
I'll say first, shout out to my wife. My wife is she's the real hero of that, because she had to hold it down and just believe his vision, because maybe I'm a visionary, as some people will call it. And to be able to share that with my wife, is we had, I think, 2 going on 3 kids at the time. Now it's 4. I'm like, hey, babe, we're about to leave this church where the budget is secure and you can, do ministry and make sure you're there. But there's this vision for the city and the community that ain't nearly as safe. I'm like, are you able to trust me as we do this? And not only was she able to trust me, she was like, nah, I'm going to support and I'll hold it down. And my wife is a beast of a nurse as well. So praise God for the nurses out here who
we're both married to nurses.
Come on, bro. Yeah. Shout out to the nurses. So when I was at the church, College Park, and the opportunity came up at the other church, at the time it was called Summer Northwest, they were pretty honest with me. They were like, hey, our church, we got some of the most caring people in the world, diehard, resilient people. But post-COVID, as a lot of churches, they ended up dwindling as far as like their numbers and even budget and stuff like that. But they still had a vision to reach the city, and they were in Pike Township. And one of my mentors, who was a pastor at College Park, he told me when he asked me to come for those couple years to pastor, he said, Jeff, I'm going to tell you this right now. He said, what a lot of people do is they'll come to a church like College Park, they'll get comfortable because of all the bells and whistles, and you got the healthiness and the support and the staff and all of that, and they get comfortable. He says, but God has called you to be a lead pastor and be in the city. If you get comfortable here, you'll be in sin. And this is probably the nicest dude in the world, bro. Like Joe, he is a nice guy, man. He don't just say stuff like that. So I took it to heart, and I got that itch, man. It was just like, all right, I'm here. I've got to learn some stuff, but I know where God has called me. I know even the vision that I have for the city of Indianapolis specifically. So when this church reached out, it just so happened that over the last year, my wife and I have been praying and really fasting, thinking about what was next. And so the church shared, they shared about their story. I knew a couple people there. They had some rock stars already in the trenches of the church. And man, when they had shared with me a little bit about their heart and vision, I asked them frankly, I'm like, well, here's the vision that I have. Do you think this is something that you guys would want to actually see and able to trust me to be the lead pastor of this church?
What was that vision?
So a couple things. So one, my heart for diversity. That's something that has just transformed my vision of what Jesus says. It's not an option for the church to not be diverse. And when I say that, I mean the church should reflect the diversity of the community that you're in. So if we're going to be in Pike Township, we're going to be in Indianapolis, our church should look like the people that surround us. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, we're not reaching them. So that was one. The other thing is, man, I love the Bible, and I believe we have to preach the Bible. So I break down the word. Mm-hmm. I usually will do what's called expository preaching. Mm-hmm. So one of those convictions was, hey, are you okay with me coming in? And we may be in the Gospel of John for 1.5 years, 2 years, we break down the scriptures. Yeah. Good with that. But then also, like, there's a sense of, if the word is just for internal, we're not preaching a prophetic word. So also, man, being able to reach the community and what we preach and teach, reaching people where they are. And then that also comes back to my own story. I'm like, yo, if we only got a church that brings church folk to it and we don't have no people who don't have a church background, man, all we did was create a holy huddle, and we can't do that. Yeah. So reaching the people in our community, where they're at, doing some outreach programs. And those were the main things too, man. And I kind of cast that vision for them. And I said, it'll take us some time. We got to build up some health here. But is this where we're wanting to go? And they say, yeah.
Wow. So, remind our listeners where exactly the church is located currently.
Yeah, so currently we're in Pike Township on 73rd and Georgetown Road. Okay. We're leasing a space, but we dealing with that. We running out of our space now. Yeah. So
let's talk about that, because my family, we've attended a few times just to see and experience the energy and the growth that's been happening under your leadership the last 3 years. So maybe talk to us about kind of, what's going on at North City right now. And I know you guys have added a lot of new families, new people to your church during that time.
Yeah, man, it's been really cool. So when I first got there, again, it was a smaller group, and maybe 25, 30 people that were there at the time, and energized and ready, but man, we just needed that vision to be clear. And part of my work in Louisville was on church revitalization and church plants. So I was able to take that and find out what are some of the things in our church that technically need to change in order for us to effectively reach the community around us. So I had a 90-day plan, a 6-month plan, a year plan, and a 1 to 3 year. And we were able to see those goals and some of those things actually take shape. And the biggest part of that was understand who are the people that are our church. So I spent a lot of time just building with the people, building up trust, and encouraging them that, yo, like, we got what we need. Let's go. Like, if God has already commissioned us and gonna give us what we need, let's go. And man, it's been really cool. So we started to see the growth, which was amazing. Started to see more families come. And I think the type of people that was coming reflected our community. Again, at the time, it was probably majority white when I first got there. And then now, you fast forward, we've more than quadrupled in size, obviously. And but the beautiful part, man, we're probably about 45% Black, 45% white, and then the majority being probably Latino and Asian. But then also socioeconomically, you got people in there that are professionals, people that are maybe upper middle class. You also got people in there that's just making it, man, and people that are coming from different stories of struggle. And the beauty of that is, man, it's not like this place where you got to come and look a certain way. It's like, come and serve Jesus, and let's love on one another, and let's build together. And we've been able to see that so far. So yeah, our vision, man, now is we're going to have to end up getting our own permanent space. We're in this lease space for the next couple of years. But we started a building campaign, and we've already said, yo, what we don't want to do is get more comfortable because we've grown. We're like, no, we're going to get a church building. But the goal is not to just get a church building, but a building that our church can be in and be able to take the building that we get and utilize it to love on and build in the community. So, for example, if you think about most churches, a lot of churches will meet on Sunday and maybe they got a Wednesday night Bible study or something. So they're utilizing their facility 2 days out of the week. The rest of the week goes unused. The model that we're looking at, and we also got some really good leaders just helping us think about this, is, man, we want to get a building, but yeah, we'll use it for our church service and the things that we need, but how do we utilize this space to show the hospitality of Jesus and use it for people in our community as well? So it ain't just this building sitting for majority of the week.
Yeah, that's really cool. It's exciting. For those that don't know, maybe walk us through what's a typical week look like for a lead pastor. You know, obviously Sunday's a work day for you generally. And I know you to be someone that probably preaches close to 40 Sundays a year, I bet. But yeah, what is that kind of flow and cadence? Because it's not all just sermon prep, right? You know, you're shepherding and caring for families and people that are going through crisis sometimes, or death or birth. And so you got 4 of your own kids, family to tend to. But yeah, what does a typical week look like in Jeff Brown's life.
Yeah. It's funny. Some people are like, so all you do is preach, right? I'm like, my wish. I wish it was that easy. So it typically depends on what the week is. So I preach, probably around 40 times a year. If I'm preaching, a bulk of my week will be preaching. So I'm going to take at least 15 to 20 hours of sermon prep. But then it's an additional 20 or so hours of just connecting with people. A lot of times it'll be like different counseling things that'll come up in my church, specifically with just working with people where they are. So if there's some tragedy that's taking place, if there's like personal issues that are going on, I'll be there and just spend time with people in our church. And this is part of the beauty of what we've seen the last 3 years. We don't have this church where everybody has it together in our church. I would actually say, man, the encouraging part, if we've had a huge influx of people over the last 3 years that come to our church that can admit that they got struggles and they got problems. So what does that mean for our leadership? That means that, man, we got to be able to meet people where they are, spend time with them, love on them, care for them, and where we can resource them out and help them to get counseling or help in different other areas. But that takes you knowing and spending time with people. So I would say half of my time is completely just giving over to people. But there's also a portion of my time, too, that my church and my elders have agreed for me where I spend it outside in the community. So I would say if majority of my time is between sermon prep and meeting with our people and helping meet people where they are, the other huge chunk of that is in the community. And you would notice from just some of the things that we connected with, like I do a lot of stuff with people that are not Christians, like people that don't know Jesus, but they're doing really good stuff in the community. And I think part of that also comes with, if we honest, in the church and in other communities as well, whether politically, when people don't agree with us, we get real weird and we act like we can't connect with them. It's just not true. Like we can. So I spend a lot of times with different things in the community that'll serve and help Indianapolis flourish, help meet people where they are, and just be a voice and a pillar in the community. So I do a lot of outreach type stuff too.
Let's talk about a few of those, because I know one thing that you're pretty involved in that a lot of people may not know about is something called Together Indy. And so talk to us about what Together Indy is, its role in the city, and your role in Together Indy.
So Together Indy is a group that started with two leaders, Pastor Jeff Kay out of Common Ground, and then also Pastor Clarence Moore, who was pastor of New Era Church right there off of Martin Luther King. And they had this vision, this black pastor, white pastor, to say, most of our churches are still segregated and not working together. How do we deal with that? And specifically, not just deal with that, to be unified so that we can actually come together and do some really good stuff for our community. So those two guys ended up having a meeting where they invited other pastors into that conversation. And that kind of birthed into Together Indy, which is obviously a nonprofit now that we're all a part of. And as Pastor Clarence Moore would transition out of ministry and retiring, he ended up asking me to take his place to be able to help lead his team. So now I serve as the board chair for Together Indy, and it's a group of pastors, Christian leaders, business leaders who care about the city and who also care about faith. But specifically, what we do is we want to be able to say, how do we get churches to actually collaborate, even if it's just 5% of their time, to work together for the bigger goal of serving Indianapolis. We get it. A lot of churches have their own outreach they're doing, their own things they're doing, their own tools and essentials. Great. And some of us probably disagree on a lot of theological things. That's fine. But if we agree on the core things of who Jesus is and that he calls us to love on our community, let's collaborate for the good of the city and do some really good work. So we're a couple years into this now, man. It's been really cool to see. We've probably had over 50 churches represented in the span of the last couple years. It's been a part. We've been able to see political leaders engage with us and talk to us and just collaborate. We've started to do some things in the community, and we've even got grants now.
You got some Lilly Endowment funding, right?
Lilly has supported us. So it's been really encouraging, man, that it's not just a vision that a few pastors had, but I think our community knows that it's needed, and even some other leaders know that this work is needed.
What anything else beyond? I mean, that's a really special initiative and needed. Anything else community wise that you're spending some time on right now?
Yeah, man. So there's a couple groups. Another one that I got to shout out is Citizen 7. Some of my guys over in Citizen 7, Don Palmer and Greg Enos. Man, it's a group of business leaders, men. They've seen the need that a lot of times men are isolated. And with that isolation comes a lot of problems. And they wanted to specifically emphasize men coming together, in different areas of business to say, how do we encourage one another? How do we build with one another? And also do some really good stuff for the community. So very similar to even Together Indy is saying you can do more together, but specifically emphasizing that with men. So I've helped out with there. There's been a couple other philanthropic groups that I've connected with to help out with like some of the things that United Way is doing and some of the other groups. But I've had to balance that right now because I still got 4 kids and a wife.
Oh yeah.
So I say that to say, I love our community, but I'm also trying to spend some time, man, with all the busyness to still make sure I'm giving really good time with my family. Cause we got 4 kids and 8, 6, 4, and 2. So I'm trying to love on our church, love on our community, but also not be a deadbeat daddy that's in the house.
Yeah. Well, I hear you. As our friend Fred Yakey told me, family is your first ministry, right? And so you can, as much as we love our city and our community, if you're not careful, you can quickly develop a community affair where you're spending too much time outside the walls of your own home, right? And so living in that tension is,
let me say something I heard that made me kind of like wake up about this. I never forget, I heard a kid say, well, my dad was a pastor and everybody else knew my dad and he was amazing, but I never spent time with him. Like everybody talked about how great he was. I just wish I could experience that. And I'm like, yo, with all the other stuff, which we would agree, like, man, like live a life, like giving yourself to your community and love.
Yeah.
But if you sacrifice your family in that, man, did you really do what you want to do? So that's even the balance now of like, man, I want to make sure.
That's why I give you grief about, are you going on the field trips at the Oaks?
He do, bro. Like, because the Oaks, hey, shout out to the Oaks. Oaks make sure parents get involved.
Yeah.
Every other week, y'all got a different thing that we can be a part of, which I like the accountability.
Yeah.
Even people like Dave saying you going to be on a field trip.
Yeah.
I go to the Children's Museum field trip.
Okay. There you go. That's great. Well, as we start to land the plane, this is a great conversation. I'd love to hear, Jeff, you are somebody with a lot of vision. What has you excited about the future of Indianapolis?
Yeah. Man, so I think if I'm looking at Indianapolis right now, and this may be my bias, but I feel like it's a little prophetic. There's some amazing stuff happening right now. So in the world that I'm in, on the faith side of things, and even with groups like Together Indy, man, there is a lot more conversations happening about how do we be more unified as a city and a community. And even as a faith community, even just some of the groups that I'm a part of that I've seen, man, there is this willingness. And I think people are getting a little bit more humble and showing more humility, at least to say, let me talk to somebody. That's been really cool. But even outside of that world, I don't think it's a coincidence, man. You've seen the energy with the fever. You see us going to the championship. I mean, you see beautiful things in the community that are like butter and some of these groups, man, and even just the leaders too. Like I've met some amazing leaders the past 5 years in Indy. And one of the traits that I've been encouraged by is a lot of the leaders that I'm talking about that are behind the scenes doing great work. You would be surprised how some of them don't really care about the spotlight. And I really want to throw them under the bus right now and shout them out because of how humble they are. But some of these like CEOs and presidents of these organizations, they care more about the work than they do getting the shine and the glory. And man, I think that's what's going to shape Indianapolis moving forward. I'm tell you that about yourself. I'm like, bro, like, I mean, you know, you got motion as far as like people trust you and you doing some really dope stuff. But one of the things I've appreciated about you, and I've told you this, I'm like, bro, you genuinely try to care for people. Like where some people would be like, oh man, Dave got a lot of clout and people know him. He's doing these things. I'm like, yeah, cool. Dave could be a jerk behind the scenes though. Yeah. What I've appreciated is when me and you've connected and we've take the trip up to Lake Lemon and we chopping, I actually get to hear your heart where you're like, nah, man, like I meet with these people and I care about these people. And I'll just give the random people time where there's no benefit for me because that's like amazing just to hear how these people's stories is huge. And I wouldn't look at opportunity for myself to be able to bless them and be a part and just be able to celebrate. And that's where I think Indianapolis, if we keep that humble spirit and we really start caring about each other more than our own vainglory, we're going to get some competition to our surrounding cities, like Chicago. Shout out to Chicago and Nashville, but, you know.
That is a prophetic word, man. I knew you'd have something good on that question, so I wanted to ask you. All right, a couple things just as we're wrapping up here. Who's a mentor or 2 or 3 that you feel like really believed in you more than you believed in yourself?
Yeah. Man, I would say one person that comes to mind, actually pastor in Louisville, Jamal Williams. So man, Jamal was he's a leader's leader. Like that's where I would describe him. It's like he's a pastor's pastor. The reason I say that is because, I mean, obviously Duke can preach and, you know, he got the accolades under his name and stuff like that. But the part that I've appreciated is that, man, you get to see his brilliance in the one-on-one time. And I was a kid in seminary, zealous, and while I'm in Louisville, he didn't even know me. But he was like, nah, I'll take you under my wing. I'll disciple you. I was meeting with this guy monthly and sometimes weekly, just connecting, and him just using his life as an open book. Yeah. And for me, I needed that. I needed to see that because, man, somebody can share with me more things about preaching, and that's cool and all, but that's different than actually caring about me as a person and showing me how to live faithfully and how to actually know that, man, people ain't perfect. We all a work in progress. And he would just open up his life to me, man. And that impacted me in way more ways than he knows.
Jamal Williams, Sojourn.
Yeah, pastor, Sojourn. Yep. I mean, and then a couple other people, because I think my trend with people that I appreciate, and there's more I could mention. Another guy, Richard Halderman, like, one of the things I appreciate about Richard, like, when we connected, he knows this. I've told him, I'm like, bro, like, you a beast. Like, I mean, you got a lot of things going for you, things that you could get glory for, but that's not the thing that I appreciated. What I appreciated is, again, humility. As somebody like myself who has a lot of confidence, I got a lot of energy, what I appreciate is humility. I remember one day he told me a story, and he was like, yeah, Jeff, technically, you know, like, I'm leading this company and doing all these things. I like to lead from a position that the people who work for me feel like they can be completely honest with me, even if it may technically cost them something. And I'm like, what you mean by that? He said, nah, I've had people that work for me like challenge me and push back on things that I say. And I've opened up those opportunities and set a culture enough that that's not something that's wrong, where they can push back. And man, so even just us connecting them and we're building, that's shown me, like, if I'm gonna be a leader, God calls me to be a leader. I'm a lead pastor of my church. I'm a leader with my family and my community. I want to be the type of leader that's never above everybody else. But I want to model the type of leadership that Richard does, where I think he gets that from Jesus, where Jesus says true leadership ain't you just domineering over people. True leadership is servitude. And also true leadership is having humility to say, sometimes I need other people, because if other people don't give me honesty and truth and help me, how will I see my blind spots? So it's just a couple people, man, that have just modeled humble leadership for me that I want to model myself and my
couple of great examples. I don't know Jamal as well, but Richard, I've gotten to know, and you're right, very incredibly humble. Not a lot of people probably don't maybe even realize what all he's done in our city and the things he's been behind, but as genuine and authentic and real as they come. So that's a great example. All right, last couple questions here, Jeff. You know, this is Talent Scout. It's about 20s, early 30s, a lot of listeners, people trying to just figure out their career, their life. What's your best piece of advice for someone out there listening early in their career?
Yeah. So to the next generation, I would say this. So I'm on social media, as you know.
Tell us about the TikTok handle.
Man, see, TikTok is the most surprising thing in my life right now. I just started putting videos on there and TikTok, and somehow I got a following now, which has been really cool.
What's the handle?
So it's I think it's just Jab Junior. Either Jab _Junior or just Jab Junior.
It used to be something. The what pastor?
Oh, the imperfect pastor.
There
pastor.
We go. Yeah. Okay, that's your TikTok.
That's my TikTok tagline. Yeah. But so I've been on TikTok, and one of the things I've seen, man, is there is a lot of momentum and energy with the new generation. A lot of people want to be entrepreneurs. They want to start something. They want to be the captain of their own ship, which is good. And I'm all for entrepreneurs. But what I would say is with the younger generation, with all the energy and momentum and the things that you have access to, do not forego or underappreciate the beauty of wisdom that's came before you. And I say this knowing we're in a new generation. A lot of things are different. But when I look at my own life, my life has been shaped not just by me being energetic and being a gunner. No, my life has been shaped by me also soaking up the wisdom of generations who came before me. And this is also why mentorship is huge. And I ain't got to prove that to you. Like, if you're a mentor, you're somebody older and you got a little bit more experience, man, take the time to pour into those 20-year-olds because they do have an energy that you don't have anymore. Like that's just the way that life works. If you need a book to read, there's a book called Ecclesiastes and it'll remind you about the circle of life. Yeah. All of us going to lose energy at one point. But that wisdom, invaluable. So to the younger generation, I would say this, yes, take that energy, man, find you 2 or 3 people that can pour into you. Yeah. People that can tell you about some ways they bump their heads so you don't got to bump yours. Yeah. And be humble. That doesn't mean you got to do everything that they say, but at least take the wisdom. Yeah. It's like, take the feedback, take the truth. And then also I would say, man, like, don't get so caught up on now that you forget that there is a future to come. And the reason I say that is because the energy of some people that are younger sometimes, we think I got to solve it and finish it right now. Yeah. And again, the older people I've talked to, they've said it a lot. They're like, yo, I thought the same thing. And now 30, 40 years later, I wish I wouldn't have rushed it. I wish I appreciated the time that I was in.
It's a marathon for sure. Yeah. Those are 2 great pieces of advice. All right, last question here. Jeff, I ask all my guests this at the end of the show. How do you define success?
Yeah. I would define success is when you get at the end of your life, you can say, I made the most out of the breath that God gave me. So for me, what that looks like is when I'm 80, 90, 100 years old, whatever it is, my life is successful if I glorified and honored God in all the things that he had given me. So my family, if I love them, I lay my life down for them. Even if I never preach another sermon, but my family's at my deathbed and say, Daddy, I love you. I'm grateful for you. That's success. Yeah. If when I leave, there's people in my city that even know it behind the scenes that, man, Jeff cared more about other people than himself. Boom. And then the last thing I would say is people know me for being a true follower of Jesus, not just in speech, but in actions. That they can actually say, hey, you know what? Jeff was not perfect by any means, but he wasn't a hypocrite. He said he believed in Jesus. He believed that Jesus was his life. Yeah. And he showed it in the way that he lived and loved people. That's successful.
Well, that's a high bar right there. And I couldn't agree more. It's really cool to hear just, knowing your story, how it's been redeemed. And I do believe you've got a pretty special anointing on your life and excited to see what the future has for you, your family, for North City Church and the city. So thanks for coming on the show today.
Appreciate you, bro. Thanks, man, family.